Good afternoon, early evening, everyone. My name is Jane Shodel. I'm the lead programmer for the special presentation section of TIFF, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to today's world premiere screening of Chevalier, directed by Stephen Williams. We are pleased to welcome you to the Visa Screening Room at the Princess of Wales Theatre. Thank you to our longtime major sponsor, Visa Canada. I would like to thank our lead and major sponsors, Bell, RBC, and Bulgari, for their continued support. Thank you also to our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. This film is eligible for the People's Choice Award. Vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. And we would like to thank Searchlight Pictures for providing us with this film. Thank you very much. Stephen Williams' groundbreaking first feature film, Soul Survivor, premiered at TIFF in 1995. But the feature film world lost him for a while as he produced numerous seasons of premium television series, including such seminal hits as Lost and Watchmen. He's directed far too many episodes of quality television to name, but some include The Walking Dead, How to Get Away with Murder, Ray Donovan, and Westworld, just to name a few. So today, premium television's loss is film's gain, full circle, because Stephen Williams has returned to Toronto with his new feature film, Chevalier, written by Stefani Robinson, who is known for her work on Atlanta and What We Do in the Shadows. And the film, right, shout out to What We Do in the Shadows. The film is based on the true story of Joseph Bologne, the illegitimate son of a white French plantation owner and an enslaved black woman, whose early promise in music led to an education in France and ultimately to the court of Marie Antoinette. And that is just the beginning of the story. The film stars Kelvin Harrison Jr., whose most recent work includes playing B.B. King in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis and Fred Hampton in The Trial of the Chicago 7. Yes, please. Chevalier is sumptuously photographed, thoughtfully rendered, and gives us a story of such unpredictability, power, and contemporary resonance that it is such a great honor for us to premiere it here at TIFF today. So please welcome back to the festival, 27 years after the first time and worth every minute of the wait, director Stephen Williams.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming out. It feels great to be back home. 416. You guys still say that, or you just say 6?
It's a 6.
6. Good to be back in a 6. I would like to thank Searchlight Pictures and everyone at the Toronto International Film Festival for programming our film and all that they have done to make it possible. As everybody knows, directors don't make movies by themselves. They need an amazing group of collaborators, and I have been blessed to have such a group, and I'd love to introduce some of them to you right now. The look of the movie is really important, and it was really part of the collective work of a number of people. Our costume designer, Oliver Garcia. Oliver worked along with our amazing DP, Jess Hall, and production designer Karen Murphy, who unfortunately couldn't make it here, but together the triumvirate of them did an amazing, amazing job, as you are about to see. Our movie is about a composer who I hope that you will end up at the end of the movie knowing a lot more about than you did before you came to the movie. Otherwise, we've really messed up. But as such, Our composers are vitally important to the experience of the movie, and I want to introduce them to you now. The arrangement of all the musical performances in the movie was done by Michael Abels. Anybody here see Get Out? Anybody here see Us? Anybody here see Nope? That's him. He was ably assisted in this by none other than Chris Bowers, who did the score. Anybody see Green Book? You know, that's him. Our producers did an amazing job in birthing this film, and I want to introduce them to you now. Diane McGonigal. Andrew Lowe. Ed Guiney. So we're on a roll, so anybody see The Favorite? That's them. Anybody see Normal People? That's them. Okay, in the beginning was the Word, right? So everything begins the script, and we were blessed with an amazing script by none other than our screenwriter and producer, Stefani Robinson. Last time, I promise. Anybody see Atlanta? Anybody see What We Do in the Shadows? That's her. All right. The cast of our movie. I feel confident. The only thing I feel confident about saying is that you will agree by the end of the movie that they are spectacular. And here they are. Minnie Driver. Lucy Boynton. Samara Weaving. And the Chevalier, Kelvin Harrison Jr. Again, thank you all for being here. Hope you dig the movie, and see you after. All right, enjoy.
Thanks for joining us for the Q&A of Chevalier. I'm Robin Citizen, the Director of Festival Programming and Cinematheque here at TIFF. And before I bring the cast and crew out, please remember that when you speak slowly and clearly, and I will repeat your question just so everyone in the audience and everyone on stage can hear it. With that, please welcome to the stage filmmaker Stephen Williams. Writer Stefani Robinson. Michael Abels and Chris Bowers. Minnie Driver. Lucy Boynton. Samara Weaving. And Kelvin Harrison Jr. Congratulations, and Stephen, I just want to welcome you back to Toronto. Since Soul Survivor, one of the most important Canadian films, it's a pleasure to have you back, especially with this film.
It's great to be here. Great to be here. Thank you.
This question is for you and Stefani. This is a part of history I didn't know about, so how did you come across this story, and how much of it is real and how much fiction?
I read about Joseph Bologne when I was in high school. My mom, who's here somewhere, she gave me a book that mentioned him. And I was captivated with him right away. He had such a fascinating life, and the more that I read about him, the more that I was drawn to him and his story, and was just really shocked that not a lot of people knew who this person was, and their cultural impact, not only on music, but in sports, and just being a really important, I think, political figure as well. So I've known about him for a really long time, and it's been a dream of mine to write this movie. So very excited to be here tonight, and could not be more thrilled to be on the stage with everybody else here to help tell his story and bring it to life. I would say the movie, Stephen and I say, it's a fictionalization. I don't think that we tried to make a biopic of his life. It was not going to nearly be enough time to do that. He had an incredibly rich life, lots of twists and turns, and just so many of the people that he knew and spent time with also just incredibly dynamic, interesting, fascinating people. But I think the thing that both Stephen and I were drawn to, and Stephen, tell me if I'm speaking out of turn, was just, I don't know, more of his artistic journey as a composer, obviously, but for me, it was that sort of transitional period between a person who was so in a group and so a part of sort of a bigger thing, and then what did it mean when he turned? That sort of transitional journey to go from a musician who did actually play for the Queen, and he taught her, he was also her tutor, to being someone who led soldiers sort of against the monarchy, like what must have happened there and what did happen in his life, what was unsaid, and we, I think, endeavored to fill in those blanks and interpret it in our way.
Anything to add?
What Stefani said. I mean, look, the only other thing, at the risk of being repetitive, some people here have probably heard me say this before, but there's just a quote that actually came from Tom Stoppard, who, you know, is a genius writer, and Shakespeare in Love, and plays, and he, I'm gonna mangle the quote, but the intent hopefully will be clear, is, you know, he said, facts are facts, and they are simple, but truth is entirely another matter, and truth is the work of the imagination. And so somewhere in that combination of factual elements and then imaginings is what the kind of formula for the movie was.
This is such a wonderful cast, and you have such great chemistry on screen. I'm just wondering what the casting process was like, and how Kelvin came to the project as well.
Well, we had to pay Kelvin, really. The Kelvin portion of the search was really very simple. We were all familiar with his work. He's done so much illustrious work in movies prior to ours, but we really needed somebody who was going to go on that deep dive, do that immersion. It's really important for me that everybody who saw the movie tonight understands that Kelvin didn't just do the work of, traditionally what an actor does. He had to represent and portray a virtuosic violinist, and everything that you see in that movie is Kelvin. And and we needed someone who was going to do that. At the end of the day, we're trying to honor a real person, right? Part of what has motivated us all is that Joseph Bologne was in fact a real person. He was erased. Or there was a very serious attempt to erase this person from history, and we all got together and embarked on this journey to try and honor him. And in doing that and resurrecting him, we needed someone like Kelvin to really go that extra mile, and we're grateful that he was either foolhardy enough or generous enough of spirit to do that. And then once you have Kelvin, then you got to surround him with people of commensurate talent and commitment, and everyone that's on the stage that is a member of the cast and falls into that category, that everyone just, think of, we talked about Kelvin, violin, like Samara, Minnie, they have to portray credibly real opera singers, which I think they also pulled off immensely. And Lucy Boynton, there's probably no more well-trafficked role in the history of cinema than Marie Antoinette, and yet Lucy Boynton managed to carve out a very specific iteration of that character that is unlike one I've ever seen before. So.
Before I turn it over to the audience, I do want to ask about the music aspect of it. For those of you that had to, credibly portray musicians and the music in the film, maybe you can talk a little bit about that training process. Kelvin, Samara, Minnie, and Chris, and the composers. Yeah.
It was hard. I finally can breathe now. Listen, let me say something. My dad's a classical music teacher, and he taught at university, and so I remember growing up seeing him teach these kids, and he would be like, it takes 6 months to teach them one concerto. So when I told him, when Michael Abel sent me those first few, I was like, now y'all done lost y'all mind. Y'all think I'm gonna be able to play this. So my dad was like, all right, get to Shedden. We went to the back house. We were sitting there for 5 hours a day, long tones, long bow strokes, getting it together. It was like 5, 6, almost 6 months plus during shooting of nonstop lessons just to get it together. And I'm gonna tell you something, when that movie was over, that violin never saw me again.
And you had a director who insisted on long takes.
You were wild.
No doubles.
He was like, we're gonna steady cam it. I said, you done lost your mind, Steve.
He's like, how hard can it be?
Do you want me to win? But he was right. Honestly, I'm glad he pushed me, so. Yeah.
Michael and Chris, did you want to speak a little bit about the music?
And what about your fencing? Are you still fencing?
Yeah, that part too, you know what I'm saying? Also, let me tell you, I fractured my clavicle on this movie. First couple of weeks, I was over there in a brace. They was looking at me like, is this movie gonna happen? Do we need to recast him? Does Will Smith need to come into this movie? And I was like, I don't know if y'all want that.
Well, Kelvin was an amazing sport about throwing himself into bringing up his violin to where you could really believe he was this character, and I had great fun using Joseph's music, but also some other riffs that just really showed what an incredible virtuoso kind of rock star that he really was. And you pulled that off completely. So this film was I'm a person who has heard of Joseph Bologne and has felt like I was following in his footsteps in some way. So to get a chance to be able to help tell his story is a dream come true for me.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, here.
First off, this was so amazing. Like every piece was perfect. You are all really amazing. But my question is for you. When you're looking for, I mean, I obviously know why you picked this one, but when you're looking for screenplays to direct, how do you pick?
When you're looking for screenplays to direct, how do you pick them?
You know, that's a really good question. There are some of my reps here, and I bet they have the same question. It's just, you know, it's mostly it's just how you feel and whether you have a personal connection to the material. And, you know, as I said in the intro, I was blessed with Stefani's script. I mean, she is a brilliant writer, and literally from the first scene, my heart sunk because I was like, I gotta do this movie, followed very shortly thereafter by, oh shit, now I gotta do this movie. But really, it's just that. At the end of the day, you know, making a movie is a long thing. I mean, we've been on this 2 years, right? I mean, you wrote it when you were, you know, a high schooler. So you've been on it for a lot longer than anybody else on this stage. But the actual kind of development, script development, you know, pre-production, everything is 2 years. And I would just say to you that, I don't know if you're asking that question because, you know, you're in this crazy line of work and you're, okay, so here's what I would say to you, unsolicited, is your connection to the material has to be so potent and so strong that it will sustain you over 2 years. You can't wake up 4 months into it going, what the hell was I thinking when I signed on to do this movie? This movie has to be something that regenerates interest and commitment and passion every time you know, confront it. And so if you don't have that, then do a TV gig because you'll be in and out in 3 weeks.
I want to quickly go back to Lucy, Minnie, and Samara, you know, and talk a little bit about the opera singing, but then also how you fleshed out your characters. I mean, this is Joseph's story, but you also play pivotal roles in relationship with him. So can you discuss that a little bit?
What, me? Okay. I mean, look, they're real women, so that was daunting, but also really inspiring because you were in these real period. It started with the wardrobe for me. I think it was so restricting, and like there's literally a garment that goes under your skirts called a cage, and that's what I felt Marie-Josephine was. I think she was like a singing bird in a cage. Just no rights, no choice. I mean, it sucks that they're taking that away now again. But yeah, I mean, oh gosh, what was my train of thought? I don't even know. Was it good? I was on a roll and then I stopped.
Birds in a cage.
Birds in a cage. Yeah, just being in a, you know, being sold, like your dad kind of owning every autonomy you have and then being kind of sold off to a husband and then him having the same sort of power over you. And I think seeing her freedom in music with Chevalier and then that being snatched away was just really what drew me to her arc. And then working with all these wonderful people was a cherry on top. What was the question? I don't know.
That was it.
Lucy, you take over because I'm nervous now.
Hi, equally nervous. I guess I had a different experience because there's such an extensive amount of information out there about Marie Antoinette. a lot of it is delivered through quite a myopic channel, and I keep saying it, but I think it's true that it reminds us that history has an author and a very specific voice of that author, and so it was a great experience to kind of try and put that all away and dispose of my kind of pre-existing ideas of her and start from scratch. And then from there, also, as you were saying, it's Joseph's story, and so try and find the avenue of her that is, as Stephen was saying, that is true, but is a tool for this story. And I think she's a useful tool in this because she is the voice of so many people that we're hearing a very similar rhetoric from, especially in the last few years, but I think generally, where it's a kind of fear-generated feeling of clutching to what you know and so desperate to keep the status quo as is, as was safe for you, that your view of everything becomes so much more enclosed and myopic, and it's not that you can't see the bigger picture, it's that you won't. And that dialogue just so, I think, specifically spoke to that. It was such a kind of, I think it's one of those things where it's such a relief to read that phrase so eloquently, and get to kind of put the ugliness of that out there. And that's what I loved exploring and kind of pushing further, the ugliness and remorselessness of convenient allyship. And that was something Stephen and I spoke about from the very beginning, absolutely. And when it's articulated in such a precise, nuanced, and eloquent way that is not heavy-handed, it is just truthful from Stephanie's words. It is just an absolute relief, I think.
I was the villain. I was bad. But there's something, you have to see the calcification, you know. Also, Marie Antoinette gets a way worse rap than Napoleon. Napoleon was the real arse.
I know.
He was the one that got rid of all of his music. He reinstated slavery. Yeah, no, the reinstating slavery in the French colonies in 1802, like that. He excised Joseph's music from our history, but I guess he didn't get rid of all of it, because here it is. But I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see the freedom and the creativity that you brought to it, Kelvin, and then this weird calcification of like Marie Antoinette loving him as a friend, but her duty, and then me just being dreadful and you being a bird in a cage. Absolute nightmare. Well done. You don't have to clap that.
This Q&A went by far too quickly, but that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for bringing this stunning movie to TIFF.
Thank you.